Dr. Michael Rodriguez rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the clock on the laboratory wall. It was nearly midnight, and he had been working for 14 hours straight. The new quantum microscope hummed quietly beside him, its blue lights casting strange shadows across the empty lab. Michael was alone in the Stanford Medical Center research facility, examining blood samples that had been puzzling him for weeks. The blood came from ordinary people, office workers, students, teachers, and shopkeepers who had volunteered for a routine health study. Nothing about these samples should have been unusual, yet every time Michael looked at them under the powerful new microscope, he saw something that made no sense. Michael adjusted the focus and peered into the eyepiece once more. The red blood cells floated in the sample like tiny red donuts, just as they should. But inside each cell something impossible was happening. There were structures, tiny structures that looked almost like buildings, and they were moving. At first, Michael thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The structures were incredibly small, visible only at the highest magnification. They appeared to be made of some kind of crystalline material that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. Some structures were tall and thin like towers. Others were wide and flat like platforms or plazas. And connecting them all were what looked like tiny pathways or roads. But the most amazing thing was the movement. Small shapes moved along these pathways in organized patterns. They seemed to have purpose, like they were going somewhere specific. Some moved alone, others in groups. Occasionally, Michael could see what looked like larger shapes that might have been vehicles of some kind. Michael had been a microbiologist for 15 years. He had seen bacteria, viruses, and parasites of every kind. He knew what lived inside, human blood, and this was not it. This was something completely new, something that should not exist. He reached for his phone to call his research partner, Dr. Lisa Thompson, but stopped. Lisa was a physicist, and she was known for her scientific skepticism. She would demand proof, and Michael was not sure he could provide it. What if this was some kind of contamination? What if the microscope was malfunctioning? What if he was seeing things that were not really there? Michael decided to take photographs. He attached the microscope's camera and began taking pictures of different blood samples. Each sample showed the same thing. The tiny structures were there in every single one, but they were different in each sample. Some blood cells contained what looked like ancient cities with curved walls and domed buildings. Others had geometric structures that seemed more modern and industrial. A few samples showed what appeared to be organic structures, like tiny gardens or forests. The variety was incredible. It was as if each person carried their own unique civilization inside their bloodstream. Michael took hundreds of photographs, documenting everything he could see. The structures were not random. They showed clear signs of intelligent design and organization. As the night wore on, Michael began to notice patterns in the movement. The small shapes seemed to follow schedules. During certain periods, the pathways would be busy with activity. Then things would quiet down, as if the inhabitants were resting or sleeping. Michael realized he might be watching entire societies going about their daily lives. At 3 a.m, Michael finally called Lisa. Her phone rang several times before she answered with a sleepy voice. "Michael, do you know what time it is?" "Lisa, I need you to come to the lab. Right now. I have found something incredible." "Can it wait until morning? I have a lecture at 9. "No, it cannot wait." "Lisa, I think I have discovered life inside human blood cells. Not bacteria or viruses. Something else. Something intelligent." There was a long pause. "Michael, are you feeling all right? Have you been sleeping?" "I am fine. I know how this sounds, but you have to see this. I have photographs. I have been watching them for hours. They build things, they move with purpose. Lisa, there are cities inside our blood." Another pause. "I will be there in 30 minutes, but Michael, if this is some kind of joke..." "It is not a joke. Bring your camera. You are going to want to document this." Lisa arrived at the lab wearing jeans and a wrinkled shirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked tired and skeptical. Michael had prepared a fresh blood sample and adjusted the microscope to the optimal settings. "All right, show me these cities. Lisa said, not bothering to hide her doubt. Michael stepped aside and let Lisa look into the microscope. He watched her face carefully, waiting for her reaction. At first, Lisa looked bored, then confused, then her eyes widened. "What am I looking at?" she whispered. "Tell me what you see." Lisa spent several minutes adjusting the focus and examining the sample. There are structures, tiny structures inside the blood cells. They look almost like buildings, and there are things moving around them. "Keep watching," Lisa observed the sample for nearly an hour. She took her own photographs and examined samples from different volunteers. Her skepticism gradually melted away as she saw the same impossible things that Michael had been seeing. "This cannot be real," she finally said, stepping back from the microscope. "There has to be an explanation. Contamination, maybe, or some kind of optical illusion." I thought the same thing. "But look at this." Michael showed her the photographs he had taken throughout the night. The structures are different in each person's blood. They are not random contamination. They are organized. They are designed. Lisa studied the photographs carefully. Each one showed unique architectural styles and patterns of movement. Some looked ancient and mystical. Others appeared modern and technological. All of them showed clear signs of intelligence and purpose. "If this is real," Lisa said slowly, "then every human being on Earth is carrying entire civilizations inside their bloodstream. Millions of people, all of them hosting microscopic worlds they do not even know exist." Michael nodded. "The question is, what do we do now?" 3 months had passed since Michael and Lisa first discovered the tiny civilizations living inside human blood. The small research team had grown. Dr. James Wilson, a language expert, joined them after hearing about their incredible discovery. Dr. Rachel Martinez, who studied the right and wrong of scientific research, also became part of their group. The team had spent weeks just watching and learning. They discovered that each person carried different types of civilizations. Some were peaceful and seemed to work together. Others appeared to be at war with each other. The tiny beings built their structures, moved around in organized groups, and seemed to communicate with each other in ways the scientists could not understand. James had been working day and night to find a way to talk to these microscopic people. He studied their movement patterns and tried to find signals or codes in their behavior. The breakthrough came when he realized that the tiny beings might be sensitive to electromagnetic waves. The team built a special device that could send very small electromagnetic pulses into blood samples. The pulses were so weak that they would not harm the human host, but they might be strong enough for the tiny beings to detect. It was like trying to tap on a window to get someone's attention. Tom Anderson, a college student, had volunteered to help with their research. His blood samples showed one of the most active civilizations they had ever seen. The tiny beings in Tom's blood built impressive towers and moved in complex patterns that suggested high intelligence. On a cold Tuesday morning, James attached the electromagnetic device to Tom's blood sample and began sending simple pulses. ... dash 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 ... It was the old SOS signal that people had used for decades to call for help. At first, nothing happened. The tiny beings continued their normal activities as if nothing had changed. James tried different patterns and frequencies. Still nothing. After 4 hours of trying, James was ready to give up. Then Michael, who was watching through the microscope, saw something amazing. The movement in the sample had changed. The tiny beings were gathering in the center of their city. They formed organized groups that pulsed with light in a rhythm. "James, they are responding," Michael said excitedly. "They are making light patterns." James quickly adjusted his equipment to detect the light signals coming from the sample. The tiny beings were indeed creating patterns of light that matched the electromagnetic pulses he had sent. They had received his message and were answering back. Over the next few days, James and the tiny beings developed a simple communication system. The beings could create light patterns to represent yes or no answers. Gradually, they built a more complex system that allowed for basic conversation. The first real message from the tiny beings was shocking. They called themselves the flow dwellers, and they had been aware of Tom and other humans for many generations. They knew they were living inside a much larger being, which they called the Great Vessel. "We have always known about the great vessels," the flow dwellers communicated through their light patterns. "Your kind has carried our kind for thousands of your years. We help keep the great vessels healthy and strong." Lisa could hardly believe what she was hearing. "You mean you know about us? You know you are living inside human bodies?" "Yes. We live in the flowing rivers of the great vessel. We fight the dark sickness that tries to harm the great vessel. We repair damage when the great vessel is hurt. We are protectors and healers." The flow dwellers explained that Tom's body was like a vast world to them. His blood vessels were rivers and highways. His heart was like a great engine that kept their world moving. His bones were mountains where some of their people lived and worked. "There are others like us in the great vessel," they continued. "Some are friends, some are enemies. We sometimes fight wars in the deep places near the Bone Mountains. We trade with friendly peoples who live in the water systems. We have sacred places near the Great Heart Engine." Rachel was fascinated by the ethical implications. "Do all humans carry civilizations like yours?" "Yes. Every great vessel has people like us, but we are all different. Some great vessels have many different peoples. Others have only a few. Some great vessels are dying, and their peoples die too." The flow dwellers revealed something troubling. They explained that many of their people were getting sick and dying. The rivers in the great vessels were becoming poisoned. Strange chemicals that did not exist in the old times were killing their cities and making it hard for them to do their work of protecting the great vessels. "The great vessels eat strange foods that poison our rivers," they communicated. "They breathe air that makes our children sick. They take medicines that kill our people even when trying to help the great vessel. Many of our cities have already died. Many peoples have disappeared forever." Michael felt a chill as he realized what this meant. The pollution and processed foods in our modern world are killing these civilizations. Our lifestyle choices are destroying entire worlds inside our own bodies. The flow dwellers continued their explanation. "When our people die, the great vessel becomes weak. When we are strong and healthy, the great vessel is strong and healthy too. We need each other to survive." James asked, "Is there anything we can do to help you?" "The great vessel. Tom is good to us. He eats foods that make our rivers clean. He exercises, which makes our rivers flow strong. But many great vessels do not know we exist. They do things that hurt us without knowing." Lisa realized the enormous responsibility they now faced. "We have discovered that human health is directly connected to the health of these microscopic civilizations. If we can help them thrive, we might be able to help humans live healthier lives too." The flow dwellers sent one final message that day. "We want to work together with the great vessels. We have protected you in secret for so long. Now maybe we can protect each other in the open. But time is running short. Many of our peoples are dying. Soon there may be none left to help." As the day ended, the research team sat in silence, overwhelmed by what they had learned. They had not just discovered microscopic life, they had discovered partners. Ancient partners who had been silently protecting humanity for thousands of years, and who were now facing extinction because of modern human lifestyle choices. The question now was what to do with this incredible knowledge. The research team had been working for 6 months since first contact with the flow dwellers. What they discovered in those months changed everything they thought they knew about health and disease. The tiny civilizations were not just living inside humans. They were fighting a desperate war for survival. Michael spent his days examining blood samples from volunteers around the world. The results were heartbreaking. In samples from people living in heavily polluted cities, entire microscopic civilizations had vanished. Where once there had been bustling cities and organized communities, now there were only empty ruins and scattered debris. Lisa documented the connection between human lifestyle and microscopic health. People who ate processed foods showed weakened civilizations with crumbling buildings and sick populations. Those who smoked cigarettes had microscopic worlds filled with toxic clouds that killed everything in their path. People who drank too much alcohol had civilizations where the rivers ran poison and nothing could grow. But the most shocking discovery came when they examined blood from people with serious diseases. Cancer patients had microscopic worlds under attack by savage invaders that destroyed everything they touched. People with diabetes had civilizations struggling with rivers that ran too thick and sweet, making it impossible for the tiny beings to move or breathe properly. Dr. Rachel Martinez was troubled by what she saw. These civilizations are dying because of choices we make every day. Choices we never knew were hurting anyone. How can we be responsible for worlds we did not even know existed? The flow dwellers in Tom's blood had become the main source of communication with the microscopic world. Every day, James would connect with them to learn more about their struggles and their needs. The news was getting worse. Many great vessels are sick, the flow dwellers reported. When great vessels take strong medicines to fight disease, the medicines kill our people too. We try to help fight the disease, but the medicines make us too weak to work. They explained that chemotherapy, radiation treatment, and many common medications were like weapons of mass destruction in their tiny worlds. The treatments might save the human host, but they wiped out entire civilizations in the process. We understand that sometimes the great vessel must take these medicines to survive, the flow dwellers continued. But when we die, the great vessel becomes weaker. It is a terrible cycle. The great vessel gets sick, takes medicine that kills us, then gets sicker because we are not there to help anymore. The team was documenting these findings when Rebecca Hayes arrived at their laboratory. She was a government official from the Department of Health, and she had been following their research with great interest. But her interest was not in helping the microscopic civilizations. Dr. Rodriguez, Rebecca said as she entered the lab with two assistants. I am here to discuss the military applications of your discovery. Michael felt his stomach drop. Military applications? Think about it. If these microscopic beings can affect human health, then we can use them as weapons. We could develop ways to kill enemy civilizations inside enemy soldiers. We could make them sick and weak without ever firing a shot. Lisa stepped forward angrily. These are intelligent beings. They are not weapons. They are partners who have been helping humanity survive for thousands of years. That is a nice story, Rebecca replied coldly. But from a national security perspective, this is the most important biological discovery in human history. We need to weaponize it before our enemies do. James tried to reason with her. Ms. Hayes, these beings are already dying because of our modern lifestyle. If we try to weaponize them, we might destroy them completely. And if they die, humans will die too. That is a risk we may have to take. I am ordering you to begin developing ways to control and manipulate these microscopic civilizations. That is not a request. The research team refused. They had spent months learning about these tiny worlds and the beings who lived there. They could not use their knowledge to create weapons of mass destruction. Rebecca left the laboratory that day, but her threat was clear. If the scientists would not cooperate, the government would find other scientists who would. That night, the flow dwellers sent an urgent message. Tom had been diagnosed with a rare blood disorder, and his doctors wanted to start aggressive treatment immediately. The treatment would save Tom's life, but it would be like a nuclear war for the microscopic civilizations living inside him. The poison storm is coming, the flow dwellers communicated. The doctors will fill the rivers with chemicals that kill everything. We understand why they must do this. The great vessel Tom must survive, but our people will die. All of them. The team faced an impossible choice. They could not tell Tom's doctors about the microscopic civilizations. The doctors would think they were crazy. But they also could not stand by and watch entire worlds die. Is there any way your people can survive the treatment? Michael asked. Some of us will hide in the deep places near the Bone Mountains. We will sleep until the poison passes, but most of our cities will be destroyed. Most of our people will die. It will take many generations to rebuild, if we can rebuild at all. Tom arrived at the laboratory the next morning to say goodbye before starting his treatment. He had no idea that he was about to become the site of microscopic genocide. I want to thank you all, Tom said. Learning about the flow dwellers has changed my life. I never knew I was carrying entire worlds inside me. I feel responsible for them. Lisa had tears in her eyes. Tom, there might be a way to help them survive your treatment. But it would be experimental. We do not know if it would work. The team had been working on a desperate plan. They would try to extract some of the flow dwellers before the treatment started, keep them alive in laboratory conditions, and then reintroduce them to Tom's bloodstream after the treatment was finished. It was like trying to evacuate a city before a nuclear bomb hit. Do it, Tom said without hesitation. If there is any chance to save them, we have to try. As Tom left for the hospital, the flow dwellers sent their final message. Thank you for trying to help us. Even if we do not survive, other peoples in other great vessels will remember that you cared. Maybe someday humans and our peoples can work together instead of accidentally destroying each other. The team worked through the night, trying to save microscopic lives they had only recently learned existed. Outside, government agents were probably planning ways to turn their discovery into a weapon. Inside Tom's body, ancient civilizations prepared for the end of their world. The crisis had reached its peak. The question now was whether science could find a way to save both human and microscopic life, or whether both would be destroyed by the very systems meant to protect them. The emergency evacuation of the flow dwellers had worked better than anyone dared to hope. Dr. Lisa Thompson had designed a special chamber that could keep the tiny beings alive outside the human body. It was like building a miniature space station for microscopic astronauts. The chamber maintained the perfect temperature, provided the right nutrients, and created an environment where the flow dwellers could survive while Tom underwent his medical treatment. For 3 weeks, the research team watched over the evacuated civilization. The flow dwellers had managed to save about 30% of their population. They built temporary shelters in the chamber and waited patiently for their chance to return home. Tom's treatment was successful. The aggressive therapy had destroyed the disease in his blood, but it had also wiped out every trace of microscopic life in his body. He was cured but empty. When the doctor said it was safe, the team carefully reintroduced the flow dwellers to Tom's bloodstream. What happened next amazed everyone. The flow dwellers did not just survive. They thrived. Having been outside Tom's body, they had learned new things about their environment. They understood the connection between the great vessel and the outside world better than ever before. Brian, see clearly now, the flow dwellers communicated to James. We understand how the great vessel Tom connects to the world of the great vessels. We can work together in new ways. Tom began to notice changes in his body. His energy levels increased. His mind felt sharper and clearer. He seemed to know instinctively what foods were good for him and what activities made him feel strong. When he was about to get sick, he could feel it coming days before symptoms appeared and take action to prevent illness. It is like having a direct line to my immune system, Tom explained to the research team. I can feel when something is wrong and fix it before it becomes a problem. Lisa realized they had accidentally created something revolutionary. The flow dwellers have learned to communicate directly with Tom's conscious mind. This is not just microscopic life living inside a human, this is true partnership. The success with Tom inspired the team to develop what they called the Conscious Symbiosis Program. Working with Dr. Rachel Martinez, they created guidelines for humans to work in partnership with their microscopic inhabitants. The program started with diet. The flow dwellers had identified which foods helped them thrive and which foods poisoned their worlds. They preferred natural, unprocessed foods that kept their rivers clean and their cities healthy. They thrived when their human hosts ate fresh vegetables, drank clean water, and avoided artificial chemicals. Exercise was another key component. When humans exercised regularly, it created strong currents in the microscopic rivers that helped the tiny beings move around and do their work efficiently. But too much exercise created dangerous storms that could damage their cities. The team also developed meditation techniques that allowed humans to quiet their minds and listen to the subtle signals from their microscopic partners. With practice, people could learn to feel when their internal civilizations were healthy or struggling. Word of the Conscious Symbiosis Program spread quickly through the scientific community. Researchers around the world began studying their own microscopic inhabitants and developing new ways to support them. Medical schools started teaching about the connection between microscopic health and human health. But not everyone was happy with these developments. Rebecca Hayes returned to the laboratory with a court order demanding that the research team turn over all their data to the military. She brought armed guards this time. "You have had your chance to cooperate," Rebecca announced. "Now we are taking control of this research." The team had prepared for this moment. Michael stepped forward with a folder full of legal documents. "Ms. Hayes, I am afraid you are too late. We have already published all our research in open scientific journals around the world. The knowledge belongs to humanity now, not to any government," Lisa added. "We have also established the Global Institute for Microscopic Symbiosis. Research centers in 50 countries are already working to develop this science for peaceful purposes. You cannot stop what has already begun." Rebecca was furious, but there was nothing she could do. The research was now public knowledge, and scientists everywhere were working to help humans and their microscopic partners live together in harmony. The flow dwellers had been following this conversation through their communication system. They sent a message that surprised everyone. "We have been talking to our cousins in other great vessels. We are all working together now. If humans try to use us as weapons, we will simply refuse to cooperate. We choose partnership, not war." Tom became the first official ambassador between humans and microscopic civilizations. He traveled the world, teaching people how to communicate with their internal partners and live in conscious symbiosis. Everywhere he went, people reported improvements in their health, energy, and overall well-being. Dr. Michael Rodriguez established the first clinic specializing in microscopic symbiosis. Patients learned to work with their internal civilizations to prevent disease, recover from illness, and maintain optimal health. The clinic's success rate was remarkable because it treated not just the human patient, but the entire ecosystem living within them. As months passed, the team made an incredible discovery. The flow dwellers revealed that they too had microscopic inhabitants living inside them. There were tiny worlds inside the tiny worlds, and those worlds had their own microscopic inhabitants. Life existed in infinite layers, each one supporting and depending on the others. "It never ends," the flow dwellers explained. "We are great vessels to those smaller than us, just as you are great vessels to us. And you may be tiny inhabitants to beings so large you cannot imagine them. All life is connected. All life depends on all other life." 5 years after the first discovery, the world had changed. Humans no longer saw themselves as isolated individuals, but as walking ecosystems responsible for countless tiny lives. Medicine had evolved to consider not just human health, but the health of microscopic partners. Food production focused on creating nutrition that supported both humans and their internal civilizations. The flow dwellers sent their final message to the research team. "Thank you for helping us survive. Thank you for teaching your people to work with us instead of against us. Now the great vessels and the flow dwellers will protect each other forever. The tiny worlds inside you are safe, and so are you." Michael stood in his laboratory, looking through the quantum microscope at a thriving microscopic city. The tiny beings moved with purpose and joy, building, creating, and living in harmony with their human host. He smiled, knowing that humanity had discovered not just new life, but new ways to live.